It's Jack Pinter. Hi.
Matthew, great to see you.
I hear you're in a rather specific setup there. What's happening? What's happening?
Well, I guess on one hand, I'm looking to the world through rose-colored glasses, but I'm also just thinking about this uncertain environment and how we have to gamble on an uncertain hand right now with everything that's going on.
It is a bit of a gamble. The metaphor of poker, are you going to twist or stick?
Well, I'm going to twist because I think we need to twist a little bit in this environment. I think there's some environments where we really need to stick, but I think this is a twist environment because, and I'm going to take off my glasses so I can really see you, lovely
It's
audience.
you.
We are facing some scenarios that we just cannot really imagine. I mean, are we going to be stuck at home for a year? Tim Whitty says maybe, who knows? Is my job going to disappear? Is my company going to disappear? Is the world of work going to change in such a significant way that my market is going to be completely different and maybe even dry up? I mean, we just don't know the next cards we're going to be dealt.
No, exactly. So really, it's about that. And from your professional background, is there something that we can share with the viewers here? Any models that might be relevant at this point?
Yeah, Shauna, I think we're just thinking about how do we make decisions now in this unknown world, this unknown environment. And the way people typically make decisions is according to their own preferences. So they're either risk takers or not risk takers, or they're process driven people, or they're expert driven people. And I think what we've learned actually in the past 10 years is that this is not the best way to approach decision making. In fact, a far better way is to think about what kind of environment we're in and what sort of decision making could we do best in this environment. And there's one particular model is created by a guy named Dave Snowden. It's called the Cynefin model. It's a Welsh word which is very difficult to spell, but I'm sure you can look that up and we can give a link here. And what the Cynefin model suggests is that there are four really different kind of environments. The first environment is a simple environment where we can really think of causality. So if X, then Y, and there's going to be a cause and effect, and things are pretty certain, and we can operate fairly effectively based on what we know in that environment. The next environment is more complicated. So there's a problem, and there may be three or four or five or six or seven different potential solutions. So what do? We bring in the experts. I mean, we're seeing this a lot with the pandemic. Bring in the experts, get a lot of expert advice, and then think, okay, which one of these routes would be best to follow, given the fact that we've consulted, that we've taken all this expert advice. So there's still some sort of cause effect, but it's a little bit more tenuous. Now, the third bit of the Cynefin model is a complex environment. So complexity is where we can't really count on cause and effect. We don't know the problem we necessarily have to solve. And in this environment, what we need to do is an experiments so we can find out what the problem we need to solve through looking at actual solutions. And finally, the fourth quadrant, the Cynefin model, is chaotic. This is where we don't know what to do. Everything has been thrown up in the air, and I think probably right now we're somewhere between complexity and chaos. And the critical thing to do in the chaos step is to act. You don't have time to consult experts. You don't have, I mean, you may have to experiment, but experiment very quickly. But it's basically to get off your keister and play the cards that you have.
Play the cards that you have, and let's open it up to the viewers. So the obvious starting point. Hey viewers, welcome back. What is the strength of the hand that you hold? Have you got any aces up your sleeve? And I think that's powerful. So pop some aces down there in the comments. Let's go back to the early days of Jack Pinter's illustrious career as a poker player. What was the assumption you made as you first came to that glorious game?
Yeah, I thought as a poker player, you had to have good cards. And that was, down to luck. And when you did have good cards, you had to make decisions about what to do with those cards. And, maybe you draw that nine for the inside straight and get lucky in the end. But basically, it had to start with a good hand. And if you didn't have a good hand, you couldn't win. And if you did have a good hand, well, and you played your cards right, I mean, literally, you would probably win. Now, I think that's interesting because what history shows us and what the history of organizations show us is that you can lose with a good hand. You can have the perfect hand, and if you don't play it right, you lose. And I think we can take some very obvious examples. I think of Philips, the electronics company that invented the MP3 player. Perfect. So they had the patent for this. They created it, and they didn't exploit it. They let it go. And of course, we know history has revealed Apple not only created the MP3 players, they actually revolutionized the music business on the back of that. Another example that frequently gets told is Kodak. So Kodak had the patent, created the first digital camera. It was all in house, and they thought, no, 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 we can't bring this out. It's going to completely cannibalize their business. So what else? What happened is they blew this perfect hand. In fact, they blew it so badly they don't really exist in the form the market leader that they were. So this critical thing is that you can have the perfect hand, the perfect cards, and if you don't play them right,
You become
it doesn't matter.
the footnote in history. But what's the next thing you learnt in terms of poker? It wasn't necessarily
The,
about the strength of hand.
No, the next thing I learned is that you didn't necessarily have to have a good opening, good cards to continue playing. In fact, what I learned is that there are two ways to win in poker. You can have the best cards, or you can bluff that you have the best cards, and perhaps gain an advantage in this way. And I think, especially in an environment which is going to require a lot of experimentation, a bluff might not be a bad idea. And just to give you an example of a great bluff, I want to talk about Tim Smith, sort of a successful singer-songwriter who got into the business of ecotourism. He created the Lost Gardens of Helligan purely by chance, by the way, seeing an opportunity in Cornwall, and then he put in a grant to create what we now know as the Eden Project. He put in a lottery grant, and guess what? He got a small grant initially. And he thought, okay, this is not nearly enough that I need to create this really ambitious project. So he went ahead with a bluff. He called a news conference. He got press in. He got a bathtub and he filled it with champagne. And when the press came in, he opened a bottle of champagne and he said, I just want to thank the National Lottery for funding the Eden Project. And he said nothing else. He just walked off. And what happened? The press lauded the National Lottery for funding such an innovative project. They had no idea that it was just a small grant, not nearly enough to actually make it happen. And this caused the lottery to revise their decision and to give Tim Smith and the Eden Project all the money they needed to create this project. So just a great example of starting out with some cards, maybe some potential hand, but then really creating a bluff to stay in the game long enough to get what you needed to do to what he needed in this case to create this ambitious undertaking.
So Tim Smith could probably join our little cabal of say yes first, see what the opportunity is, learn, join the game and see what happens. Also playing the face game. So do you think we've taken it too far? We've stepped over the edge of the envelope occasionally. Have you done that? Have I done that? What do we think?
I think certainly we've definitely pushed that comfort zone a little bit wider. And I think occasionally when you push the comfort zone, you step maybe that 3 steps outside, not 1 step outside, and you find yourself thinking, "Oh my gosh, I am actually out of my depth." And I know, Matthew, you've got a great example of this.
Yeah, sometimes the floors of the trading room are electrified. No one tells you that. Very quick story. Huge IT company. I'd been going down there and doing my song and dance routine on soft skills. And then someone said, would you like to teach these IT professionals? That was the first alarm bell, which I didn't choose to listen to. I said, what could go wrong? Teaching them Outlook 210. This was some time ago. I'm an Apple man, and I was teaching on a tiny netbook the size of a matchbox. I went in there. I had that sort of less than confident supply teacher vibe. They were helping me with the shortcuts. I was meant to be teaching them. When the concierge chucked me out of the building, it was something of a relief to go out into the rainy street. I have learned never to teach IT to anybody. And I'm a happier man for it. So lessons well learned.
But Matthew, I think we should challenge people to get chucked out by the concierge once in a while. Every once in a while, I think it's good to just say, hey, you know what? I did take it too far, and now I know my boundaries. And until we extend those boundaries, I don't think we really know how far we can go, and also what we know and what we don't know.
Very nice, very nice. Why don't we end with the stack idea of just how much do you bluff it? How much do you bluff it? What are your thoughts about that?
And of course, and I think this is really important, is how big is your stack? This is your stack of chips. And of course, what the Cynefin model suggests as well is that you have to experiment, but within this, you have to make safe experiments. Safe, quick experiments, fail, and as Becca said, fail again, fail better. But just be wary of the size of your stack. And I think what we'd like to reassure Matthew, is that I think people the size of their stack includes all their capabilities, all the capabilities of the people they work with, all their creativity, all their potentiality to learn, all their potentiality to grow. It's not just the stack that you have, but it's also the stack that you can create and that you can draw in these times. And I think that's important to, and as we know, the most successful people are the people who are really good at asking for help. So if you can ask for help and increase your stack, you can bet a little bit bigger.
Stack up your stack, asking for help to stack up your stack, and you will be well stacked at the end of it. Jack Pinter, superstar, thank you as always. Thank you, viewers, for sticking with us. Much, much, much appreciated. Put your comments there. What else do you want to talk about? What do you want us to talk about? Remember, it's your channel. Thank you, mate. We'll see you soon.
Take care.